No.
You know, you vowed never to speak to me again.
Did I?
Yeah. But you broke it by telling me.
Oh. That's only because you cancelled the last minute.
I did, and I've come here to apologise.
Yeah, so instead of doing the show a couple of series ago, you went off and did what?
I went off and did a movie.
Called?
And I really regretted it. It was
The 1969 western Death of a Gunfighter began under the direction of Robert Totten, but after repeated clashes with the movie star, Richard Widmark, he was dropped from the production and replaced with Don Siegel. Totten had directed more of the finished film, so Siegel refused to take directing credit, but Widmark didn't want Totten's name on the picture. So the Directors Guild of America decided to credit a fictitious person, and Alan Smithee was born.
The fake guy, the fake name that they use. They always put his name on things that people have taken their names off of. Well, he's done some interesting work over the years. He's probably done, you know, I don't know. I mean, what was the latest Alan Smithee picture? You remember?
Yes. The Shrimp on the Barbie, starring Cheech Marin. The real director, Michael Gottlieb, has disavowed it.
I never saw that one. What else?
How about Morgan Stewart's Coming Home? It took two directors, Terry Windsor and Paul Aaron, to equal one Alan Smithee. And when Stuart Rosenberg walked off Let's Get Harry, the solution was Let's Get Smithee.
Alan Smithee's not a big hit, let's put it this way. I think the guy, you know, either needs a better press agent or something.
It became the DGA's preferred pseudonym for directors who have had their creative vision taken away from them and wish to disown the film. So as long as the nameless director did not talk about working on the film, the Guild would pretend that Alan Smithee was a real person.
Everyone in Hollywood is at the mercy of the production companies. They're the ones that are putting up the money, and despite the fact that we think of film as art, they, in many cases, by contractual agreement, are the ones that have the last decision. They're the ones who can decide that this film is too long and must be edited. In fact, most directors today have to sign contracts that say, I will deliver a movie under 120 minutes, and I will deliver a movie that will get, at most, an R rating. And therefore, if they cannot meet that command from the studios have the legal right to take over the film, edit it, change it, reshoot segments of it, retitle it, do most anything that they want to it. That's why the director's last resort is to say, well, I won't have my name on this picture.
Despite a prolific career, the title would later be retired, mainly because of this film.
Don't fuck with me.
Don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with us!
Well, no. That's not actually the movie. That's the movie within the movie. The movie is Burn Hollywood Burn.
Shall we do it again, then? Do it again? What are you talking about? They nailed it. Did they? Just one more, please.
Did you nail it or not? Now then.
Honey, it's done.
What?
Print it, Alan.
Are you quite certain? I think it can be better.
Released in 1997 in America and 1999 in the UK, Burn Hollywood Burn was meant to be a satire of the Hollywood film industry. It sees Eric Idle play a film editor who is given the opportunity to direct a big-budget action movie called Trio, starring Sylvester Stallone, Whoopi Goldberg and Jackie Chan. When creative control is taken away from him, the director finds that he cannot take his name off the picture, for his name is already Alan Smithee.
No! Why are you so insecure you can't take any suggestions?
It's awful. It's terrible. You've sodomized it.
Sodomized it? What the fuck are you talking about? I don't do that stuff.
Please, James, I beg you. My name's on this movie.
Well, you know what? Take your name off it. You can use Alan Smithee.
Oh, I am Alan Smithee.
Yeah, you and hundreds of others.
So he steals the film and burns it. But in an ironic twist, the tale of the movie becomes more profitable for the studio than the movie itself.
Anything he wanted to direct, I would produce. I believe in closure. I believe in healing. I'll tell you something else. I give him final cut.
Cool.
There are a myriad of cameos from the movie world, there to either poke fun at themselves or at Hollywood. I personally thought Sylvester Stallone was rather funny, and at times he reminded me of Joey from Friends.
This kid is fireproof. I'm not going down for nobody. But do I interfere? Yes, no, yes. It all depends what time it is, you know? Yeah, I do. So what?
There is even a cameo from a now infamous but then relatively unknown to the public producer.
I'm a private investigator. The studio hired me. Got to be friends over that Heidi business. We had 5 days before this movie was supposed to open. First, we wanted to contain it. We didn't want it bleeding into the media. The studio brought in a psychologist. I wanted a profile of Smithee.
And to my surprise, he plays a menacing slimeball creep rather well. I wonder if he's a method actor.
I'd say redemption is a subject that I really, truly believe in. I mean, I believed in it for John Rambo, of course, redemption for Rocky Balboa. No, I think redemption is good for the soul, it's good for box office, it's good for the country, it's a cleansing thing. I mean, it's a definite. I mean, life without redemption is like, you know, a day without orange juice. Forget about it.
This film is shot in a mock documentary style, but whereas films like This Is Spinal Tap and I'm Still Here are fly-on-the-wall documentaries where the camera crew follows the subject of the film, this is a talking heads documentary, where through pieced together interviews you get the feeling of a story. This to me is the film's biggest mistake, apart from maybe Harvey Weinstein, because it makes every scene feel like it's exposition. If you were making a real documentary like this, you'd cut to photos and stock footage, or failing that, dramatic reconstructions. But this doesn't. For the most part, it's a set of monologues delivered straight to camera, and after a while it starts to feel like Jack and Ori.
I want to tell you about an emperor of long, long ago who loved pancakes.
If they'd just shot the scenes they were talking about, it would have livened the movie up. You know, show, don't tell. An hour and a half of almost solid dialogue is a bit of a slog, and what annoys me is they don't even commit to the documentary form 100%. If you look at the TV show The Office, it's a real documentary, but the subject is fiction. So you don't get any scenes where the camera crew wouldn't logically go. Burn Hollywood Burn steps out of the documentary form whenever it's inconvenient. Like this scene, which is one of the few examples of character interaction in the film.
I say, man, you don't burn the flick. I say what you do is you take your name off that shit. Yeah, you can use that phony name, the one everybody be using.
I can't do that. I am Alan Smithee.
That scene comes just past the middle of the film and is shot with conventional coverage, unlike anything which came before it or will come after it. Not that the interview footage is much better. Rather than each character being shot in a single location and edited like you're coming back to them to continue their narrative, they're shot all over the place. 1 minute they're here, 1 minute they're there.
He was insecure, most artists are. He underrated what he had done. He was too close to it. He was blinded artistically. That's why we had to come in and make a few changes. But what I saw was great.
I'm aware that the joke is the movie executive is being filleted in the car, as many before him have done so. But the joke doesn't seem to fit a talking head documentary. Why would he wait while a crew are setting up a camera and then say, right, you can start sucking me off now, this won't take long? If this was a fly-on-the-wall documentary, it could be a funny running joke if the film crew keep catching him unaware with actresses in compromising positions. But here it just doesn't make any sense. Baby doll, baby. This is another thing that totally throws me out of the movie. It's not unusual for a documentary to introduce its characters with text, but for this film it's their name, profession, an insult, and an in-joke so niche no one outside of Hollywood will get it. There are many references to Mike Ovitz here, who was a big agent at the time and considered by many to be a bully. How many people knew his name then, I've got no idea, but I doubt it was many more than know it now.
Is the movie really that bad?
It's fucking horrible. It's worse than Showgirls.
That there is a pretty funny and self-deprecating joke, providing that you're aware that Joe Eszterhas, who wrote Showgirls, also wrote this movie. The Hungarian-born Eszterhas was once the highest-paid screenwriter in Hollywood, allegedly earning 7-figure paychecks for 4-page treatments. Nice work if you can get it. He wrote many different films, but found his niche in the erotic thriller genre, where Basic Instinct would become his biggest hit. In the book, Hollywood Animal, Joe Eszterhas recounts the making of Burn Hollywood Burn. He wrote the script over a long weekend, then called it a mock, and then he showed it to his agent, who refused to show it to anybody else. So Joe took it upon himself to send it to everyone, and apparently the script started to get quite a buzz. Even Steven Spielberg said how funny he found it. The script attracted former Directors Guild of America president Arthur Hiller to helm, with Joe Eszterhas producing, albeit without credit.
Don't let anyone anyone destroy your mojo. The work comes out of your heart and soul. It's what you're about. Don't let anyone fuck it up, and hurt you in the process.
While doing research for this video, I found that somebody was selling an original script on eBay for 50 Great British pounds. That's about $65 US. So I bought it, and then I found out that you can download it on a website for free. The downloaded version of the script I have, which is marked as first draft, starts with a strange back and forth of letters from the writer to the reader, and then from Alan Smithee to the reader. I'm not sure what it's there for, but it does set up the tone. The Jackie Chan and Whoopi Goldberg roles were written for Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger, uniting the Planet Hollywood trio for what would have been the first time. After they passed on the roles, that screen partnership would only happen in the 2010 film The Expendables. A lot of Hollywood's writers' names appear as characters in the script. William Goldman, Ron Bass, and even David Mamet. But in the finished film, only the Lethal Weapon writer Shane Black and Joe Eszterhas would appear as themselves. The black filmmakers, who in the film are called the Brothers, for their surname is Brothers, in the script are written as the Menace to Society directors, the Hughes brothers. According to Eszterhas's book, they even worked on the dialogue together before eventually passing.
And the first cut was actually quite interesting. It's directed by Arthur Hiller, who directed Love Story, and he has Ryan O'Neal in it with me. Was Bruce Willis in it? It had real people in it all over the place, and it was sort of semi-documentary. But Arthur Hiller tried to make it real. He tried to put emotion in, which I thought was a very right way to go with it, until they fired him.
Joe Eszterhas recounts, again in his book, the director, Arthur Hiller, presented a rough assembly to the studio, and they hated it. So Eszterhas was asked to make his own edit of it. But because the production was out of money, he had to waive his fee to do so. He cuts it down and adds quirky title cards and layers on music by Public Enemy. The studio say that they're not paying for that, so he puts an advert in some trade papers for unsigned bands to send him music for the film. This is where the really eclectic and rather irritating music came from.
Mike Ovitz! Michael S. Ovitz! Mike Ovitz! I wanna be Mike Ovitz!
Arthur Hiller, rightly seeing that creative control had been taken away from him, removed his name, thus making this film an Alan Smithee film. Or is that what happened? Eric Idle says he was fired, but Eszterhas said he was right next to him in the edit booth while he made the changes.
Some people thought we'd done for publicity. I said if they knew the pain I went through, they wouldn't have thought that.
Why would you want me to direct it?
Arthur, you're the former president of the Directors Guild. And this movie sticks up for directors. It really does.
The last thing any director needs is you, of all people, to stick up for us.
The film was only released in 19 theatres in America, with little publicity, and therefore flopped.
Compare this film to the much superior Barton Fink by the Coen brothers, which was also about how creative types are treated in Hollywood. But Barton Fink, as a talent, meant something. As a character, he was interesting. Alan Smithee in this movie, by comparison, is a true non-entity.
Well, I didn't laugh either, Gene, and I would also compare it to Robert Altman's great movie, The Player, which takes Hollywood and dices it up and slices it three different ways as compared to this film, which is just mean-spirited.
Exactly.
And also not at all interesting to watch, even in the moment. It's done as kind of in the style of one of those tributes where somebody with a camera goes around to get everybody to say, happy retirement to the boss or something. Everybody's looking straight at the camera. There's no character development. They tell the story in order. It's not only not funny, but it's boring and excruciating to sit through.
It's because Eszterhas is a private agenda. His anger got the best of him. He didn't have any satiric distance on this material.
I'm never ever going to cancel you again. It's a complete stinking movie.
Yeah.
And not only was it terribly bad, it won an award in America for being the worst movie of the year.
Yeah.
And it was called Alan Smithee, Burn, Hollywood Burn.
Right.
And it was dreadful.
It won 5 Golden Raspberry Awards, but not the one for the worst editing. And that's the one I think it truly deserved, because I think there's a good film in there, if someone could just spend a little bit of time and money on it. But alas, we have what we have. Arthur Hiller never directed another cinema-released movie again. Joe Eszterhas only wrote one more film, the Hungarian-language Children of Glory, and Eric Idle would sack his acting agent.
I want to tell me about critical reaction. What was the worst critical reaction that you got yourself as a performer?
Apart from being booed off stage at the Blue Angel by guards officers, which is a sort of act of taste, I think, was that we were on The Tonight Show once, Python. We went on in about 1973, and we'd been on a tour of Canada to sort of vast laughter, and everything we did got sycophantic laughs. We'd just hit America, and nobody had ever seen us. We went on The Tonight Show, and we did 30 minutes material in 20 minutes. I mean, there was not a laugh. You just looked up, and the whole audience was going... And it started off with two guys sort of dressed up as ladies going, "Have you buried the cat yet? No, he's not dead yet." And that... These people are like, "Where's Carson?" You know? It was really awful.
After this film was released, the Directors Guild of America retired the Alan Smithee credit, fearing it had become too widely known. When asked to make a comment, Joe Eszterhas said, "Who said writers have no power in Hollywood?" I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.